Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar, How to Talk to Your Family About Surrogacy for Intended Parents. Thank you to everyone who is joining us today. We will be taking questions live and answering them live at the end, so I ask that if you do have any questions for our speakers, please send them using the GoToWebinar question tool. With us, we have Leia Swanberg, founder and CEO of Canadian Fertility Consulting. Leia is a mother to 5 and a 2-time gestational surrogate and a 6-time egg donor. She began Canadian Fertility Consulting in 2007 after her second surrogacy with the intention of creating a more rewarding surrogacy experience for intended parents and surrogates. With a background in business development and management, Leia turned her personal passion for alternative family building into a full-time business. We also have our in-house counselor, Jan Silverman, with us today. Jan has worked in the field of reproductive health for the past 28 years, supporting, educating, and advocating on behalf of women and men struggling with issues of infertility. She headed a program at Women's College Hospital and has consulted at the Create Clinic for the past 9 years. She was selected as one of the 11 experts and had worked on the expert panel of infertility and adoption in 2008. As an infertile woman herself, Jan made her family through adoption. I'll now ask Leia and Jan to join us on screen. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Leia Swanberg, and as Jordan said, I'm the founder and CEO of Canadian Fertility Consultants. We have had the most immense pleasure of working with Jan over the years, and she really has honored and supported so many of our clients that now more than ever, we have clients reaching out and asking for more support, and it's really just been so wonderful. And with us all sort of at home these days, I thought it would be a great opportunity to have Jan share her expertise on when and how to share surrogacy with your family as intended parents. So I'll turn it over to you, Jan.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with CFC today and the opportunity to speak to so many intended parents, because I've been kind of working from home over these last 6 weeks and I'm missing the contact with all of you. So I wish I could be seeing all of you, but know that I'm thinking about all of you. So, you know, it always comes up when we meet and assess and talk to intended parents, the point about how do we actually talk about it. So I wanted to outline a couple of thoughts, first of all, around this topic. And then I'm hoping that we're going to have a lively question and answer kind of period to kind of address some specific needs. Because obviously, everybody is an individual and everyone's situation, everyone's story is slightly different. So we can't give one group of this is exactly what you do that's going to work for everything. But what I'm hoping right now is that I'm going to give you a few guidelines and that you will think, how could this possibly apply to me? And boy, she's totally off on that one, which is okay. These are suggestions, right? You have to apply the suggestions and make them work for you. So first thing that I think that intended parents need to think about is how much of your journey have you already shared? And this really can vary widely. I know from working with people with fertility, heterosexual couples with fertility issues, that some people really choose not to tell anybody about it. And they kind of walk the path often by themselves. And likewise with some of our same-sex couples. With same-sex couples that want children, obviously people are going to realize that they're going to need the help of somebody, but don't always tell our families everything all at once, or our friends. So we first of all have to think, how much have we shared? How much do they know? Now remember that you have been living in the world of working through fertility challenges, be it heterosexual or same-sex couples, there are still challenges, that you've been thinking and working through these challenges for time, for quite a period of time. And remember that when you actually go to speak to your family and friends, this is the first time that they're hearing it. So they are not coming in with the advantage of all the research, all the thinking that you have had the opportunity to do. It's new to them. It's kind of, what? Huh? Often. So be patient. Give them the opportunity to catch up. You know, I think the biggest thing to remember is that surrogacy is for everyone involved a journey of love. You know, it is the love of a surrogate that's going to make this miracle happen, but it's also the love of you as intended parents that's going to bring a new life into your homes. I mean, for all of you, how much easier would it be to say, oh, forget it. It's going to take too long. It's too expensive. Forget it. We don't need this. But to the contrary, you are all people that are saying, no, we want to love a child. We want to bring children into our homes. So the first thing that you are going to get across to your family and friends is that this is going to be a journey of love. Now, I know we always have to be mindful and respectful of the fact that everyone comes from slightly different cultural upbringings. So we can never say, ever, this is what you should do, because that's disrespectful. You know your cultures, you understand how different children are accepted within your own specific cultures. I don't have that privilege, although I have certainly had the privilege of learning so much from so many of you. But the specifics are the ones that you know about. So that's why I said pick and choose. Some cultures are more accepting of some things than others. And hopefully we will get into that a little bit more in our discussion area. My general rule of thumb is to be open, is to be honest, is to invite their questions, their concerns, and open, honest, invite their questions, and never, ever apologize. Never apologize for the path you're taking. Never feel as though you have to justify it. You are privileging them with information, but you are not asking for their judgment. And they need to understand from the beginning that this is something that you have thought long and hard about, that it was not a snap decision, that there are far too many steps in this process for you to just think, oh, okay, good, did it. You know that. You know there has been lots of agonizing thinking and saving up and figuring out how are we going to make this work. So always honor yourself first and foremost. Further to that, when we do talk about it, one of the big things I hear a lot is that people don't really understand what surrogacy is and what it is not. There are misconceptions up the wazoo. Be prepared for that. Be prepared that people will kind of have an idea, but they really will not understand what it is about. So for example, it's not the surrogate's baby. Trust me, the surrogates are very clear. This is not their baby. You be clear when you speak to your family. This is not her baby. I've been thinking that I'm going to start creating a list of all the words that people use to describe what this is. This is my oven. This is my incubator. This is my garden. They use such beautiful words to describe it. Ask your surrogate how she thinks she's going to talk about what the baby is, and maybe use a similar word. What I just alluded to as well is that surrogates do not want to keep your baby. They do not want your baby. They all have children. If they want another baby, they will have another baby. They have the capacity to have more babies. They don't want to keep it, because I know a lot of parents and family are always afraid, but what if she changes her mind? What if she decides? Leah, how many times has that happened, Leah?
Never in Canada. And as a
Exactly.
surrogate, I can share my experience that it was such a blessing to watch these people become parents literally in front of my eyes. I can't, it's been 14 years and 16 years respectively, and I remember those moments of watching people become parents in front of me, and what an honor it was. And people often will say, well, how can you do this? And as surrogates, we say, how can you trust us to do this? Because we just can't imagine that anyone would trust someone with such a huge gift. But Jan, I have a ton of questions for you, so I'm going to jump into these questions.
Okay.
So the first question is, would it be easier to tell people that we are adopting, we're using a donor egg, so it feels like adoption to me?
I'm going to strongly advise not to. I'm a really strong believer in honesty, because ultimately what you always have to remember is that it is, in the final analysis, it is about the child, and that the child needs to be dealt with and talked to in a respectful, honest manner. So if you are going to tell other people that this is an adoption, then you are not honoring the child's right to know the truth. And I have to tell you, as a parent myself, your child needs to trust you. And you can start a relationship with a child, I will suggest, based on lies. And I'll tell you, if you haven't gotten your hands on Corey Silverberg's book, What Makes a Baby, get your hands on it, because Corey talks about all families are the same. They all require a part from a woman, a part from a man, and a place for the baby to grow. The child is yours, no matter where it comes from. My children are not my egg, and they didn't come from my uterus, and they could not possibly be more my children than they are. So my advice would be, use proudly the language of, we were able to find somebody that was going to help us to make our dream come true.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question. We're worried about a miscarriage, as I've had several. Even with the surrogate, should we wait until 25 weeks to tell people we're expecting, or should we tell them before we get started? We don't agree on this and are having a hard time finding common ground as a couple.
Okay, and I think that's so true in everything to do with fertility. We want, as partners, we want to be exactly there. We want to be on the same page. And unfortunately, that rarely happens. When thinking about the options that you give, I'm kind of a little bit more in the middle on this one. So I definitely don't think that you should wait till 25 weeks. I think miscarriage is scary. Oh my goodness. And my heart so goes out to people that have struggled with miscarriages. I get that, trust me. But part of coping with miscarriage or loss in any way is by having support networks out there. And if we don't tell anybody, then we don't have supports out there. And support is really, really important. So I would say that 25 weeks is a little long to wait. I tend to be of a school of thought, so let's get the, what did someone say today? The bun in the oven. Let's get the bun in the oven. Perhaps if you and your partner are not in agreement about talking about it too much in advance, perhaps let's get it in and let's get it, get that positive test and at least know that you're off to the races. Maybe that can be a bit of a compromise. And as you know, relationships are always about compromise. But I think the biggest thing is that if you're not going to tell anybody, then all the responsibility of dealing with the nervousness and the scaredness is just going to rest on the other person, and that can lead to tension. So maybe find someone that you trust, because we need support. We need support. Yeah.
Next question is, I'm very traditional South Asian culture. Surrogacy would never be accepted in my family. Would it be horrible if I hid this pregnancy?
That's tricky, because again, as I mentioned earlier in my comments, I think that I can't speak specifically to all the cultural differences that occur. I think it's challenging though, because that means that the child is going to grow up thinking, you know, you have to again think, does this mean you are never going to tell the child that you made use of a surrogate? And yet I don't want to say, oh, of course, tell your family. But I think that partially we have to recognize that, I don't know, is the person that wrote this living in Canada, do you know?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to at least note that this is 2020, a very weird 2020, I will add, really weird, but it is 2020. And I think that we have to start kind of breaking down a few of these boundaries, you know, these barriers. I think that's what these last few months have been about, kind of reassessing, what do I need? What do I want? And I'm going to go back again and again to the child. I think it's important for the child to know, I had a wonderful woman that helped bring me into the family. I mean, obviously, I don't know your family, and if you're saying they'll reject the child, they'll never want it, I don't know. Usually, how can you ever possibly reject a child, a beautiful new baby, a child that was brought into the world with so much love? But it is tricky. I wish there was a pat answer to that one.
So the next question I have is similar but different. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get this right. We are living in Canada while our parents still live in Israel. They are supportive of surrogacy, however, have told us that we need to use a Jewish egg donor and a Jewish surrogate, which is seeming to be impossible to find in Canada. How do we talk to them about our plans, or should we lie?
Again, and you're hearing.
Sorry,
What?
I'm not laughing at the question. I hadn't read it yet. So, okay.
So again, I always come back to, I hate lies. Lies tend to catch up with you. So
Okay.
I'm never, ever a fan. It's always hard to remember exactly what did I tell and what variation, and it's hard to maintain a lie. So I'm not a fan of that. I can just speak from a Jewish halachic perspective, that the law is usually that whoever the child is a religion of initially of where the baby comes out of. So if the surrogate was not Jewish, then the child will require conversion. And you want to know something? My children had to be converted as well, because they didn't come from my body. But it's very comfortable and very much a part of the process. There's also an institute in Israel called the PUAH, P-U-A-H, the PUAH Institute, that will answer more specifically. But this happens all the time, because there are occasionally we do get Jewish surrogates, and occasionally we get Jewish egg donors. But you're correct. That's the exception rather than the rule. But we know how to work around it, and those children are accepted. They do have to go through conversion, but it's not that big of a deal to go through a conversion process.
Thank you. So our last, or no, maybe we have time for 2 more questions. This question is, we are a same-sex couple and will require an egg donor and surrogate. we want to be able to tell our parents, but are afraid they will disagree with us knowing the egg donor. They are very private people. How can we talk to them about our desire to have a known egg donor?
Okay, so a little bit off the topic of surrogacy for the moment, but really important because the egg donor is a very big part of this selection process. And again, I apologize. I'm sorry, my phone just went off. I apologize. And again, I'm a really, really big fan of known egg donors. I think that it's remarkable, especially, well, in all situations, it's my preference, but especially in same-sex couples, because obviously, the child's going to someday know that they came from some egg out there. And again, I think that the answer always comes back to that you and your partner are making a decision that's going to impact on your lives and the life of the child. And it always, always comes back to that. You let your parents know that you are going to have the egg donor as part of their life, such that you will be able to openly and honestly answer the questions that the children will come up with later in their life. But that this is not going to be the mother of the child, that your child is not going to have a mother. Your child's going to have two amazing fathers, but they're not going to have a mother, and frame it that way. And again, this is one point that I didn't get to in my notes before, but I want to stress how important language is. You know, the language you use and how you use it will very much impact on how it is received. You know, like, so choose your words, let them know that this is an important person that is going to be sharing genetics and will care about my child, but is not the mother. But I think, again, honesty.
Are there any, when you talk about language and you talk about sharing in a specific way, are there words that you think are important in this process, in the explanation to others of, some people say surrogate mother, some people say gestational carrier, some people, have various terms. Like, what would you say ideally, if you were coming to me and I was your mom, like, what would you say? Like, how's the best way to say it?
Well, again, personal preferences. And again, this is my bias, but I love my own biases, but everyone can hear their own and create their own. I'm not a fan of using the word surrogate mother, even if it's a same-sex couple, because, as much as I love the expression tummy mummy, it's cute, but then it can lead to a child at some point going, well, if it's my mummy, where is she? And why isn't she here? Why? And the potential or the concern about abandonment, whether there is like, if this is my mother, so I'm pretty careful about saving the parent words for the couple. I like to think that the only mother that the child is ever going to have is in a heterosexual couple will be the woman in the couple. That
Okay.
your child, if you're a same-sex couple, will not have, as I just said, will not have a mom, but will have two loving, devoted, amazing dads. And I just want to say that it starts with you. When you believe it with all your heart and with all your soul, the child believes it.
Okay, excellent. So do you like gestational carrier? Is that a word you?
I like gestational carrier. I do.
Okay.
I like thinking of people as Surrows or my GC, my
Okay.
gestational carrier. Or I like Surrow. I like thinking of
Okay.
that because I find it affectionate. GC is kind of like, but I often will say, your Surrow, was this amazing woman. And,
Awesome.
and I think we start the kids off at an early age by learning about it and honoring from the get-go that I had a team that created me. that it took a whole team, but I was wanted. And isn't that the most important thing that a child can hear from the get-go? Is that I was wanted. Even before I was conceived, I was so wanted. I think that's
Absolutely.
remarkable.
No, absolutely. And thank you, Jan. Our time's coming to an end, but for those of you whose questions I didn't get to, Jan and I will take some time to answer them. We'll have them up on our blog. We'll be sending a live recording of this if you missed any of it. It will be sent to all registrants, and as well will be on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us today, and we will be catching up again in a couple of weeks with a webinar speaking about egg donation and how to potentially share with your child that you had the assistance of an amazing person who helped you as an egg donor. So we look forward to connecting with you again soon, and we hope that you are all safe, healthy, and doing well during COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much.